What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out the Among the Ashes podcast this week. We're your hosts, Wes and Chris. Before we jump into tonight's episode, we want to take a minute and thank each and every one of you guys that's been following along on the journey so far. It means a lot to us. We really do appreciate it. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you haven't done it yet and you would like to, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave us a comment, and also turn on your notifications button. That way you can stay up to date whenever we drop new episodes. And when you're done there, if you don't mind, jump over to one of these platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or Audible, and give us a follow there. You don't get the video, but you do get the audio, and it's a chance to download an episode that you can listen to later whenever you're cutting grass, riding down the road, hanging out by the pool, whatever you're doing, and they give you a chance to share it with your friends and get them on board with the podcast. We would really appreciate that. Also, if you got a show idea or you would like to be a part of the show, shoot us an email at amongtheashes@yahoo.com. And we're also on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. You can shoot us a DM there as well if you prefer that. All searchable by Among the Ashes Podcast. So with all that being said, let's jump into tonight's episode with Mr. Lloyd BIRL Watkins. BIRL is a good friend of mine. We call him BIRL. He'll get the joke. He's been a huge influence in my life for the last 25 or 30 years. Just a great friend. He's going to come on and share what life was like growing up poor and as a pastor's kid and in and out of trouble, and how nobody really gave him a chance or thought that he was going to amount to anything. But yet he's had a 25, 30 plus year career in law enforcement. He just retired, I think, 30 years from the local sheriff's department here in our county, and now he is working part-time with the DA. So he's got a pretty lucrative career. He's seen a lot, been a part of a lot, but not only that, he's also a minister. So he's going to share what life is like balancing being a law enforcement officer as well as a minister, and how that affects both, honestly. So not only that, hopefully we're going to dive into some deep subjects, maybe some things that get us in a little trouble, a little controversy, but we're going to get his perspective on it. So go grab you a drink, grab you a snack, sit back and relax, and let's jump into tonight's episode with Mr. BIRL Watkins. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out the Among the Ashes podcast this week. We're your hosts, Wes and Chris. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing good. How are you, Wes?
Doing good, man. You had a good week?
Oh, yeah. It's been a good one. Yeah.
Well, we've got Mr. BIRL Watkins on with us tonight. How are you, BIRL?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing good, man.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see y'all.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It has been a minute.
Yeah, just a little while.
Yeah. I thought y'all had a beef with me or something. I wasn't sure what was going on.
You smell funny, but other than that,
that's normal though. You're used to that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so if the smell hadn't got rid of us by now, you know what I'm saying? So what's new in your neck of the woods?
Well, I'm officially old and retired.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really retired, but I retired from my 30-year job.
Yeah.
Doing another job now, so enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
30 years in law enforcement, and I retired. I said when I was younger that when I retired, I was only going to wear a gun when I wanted to. I wasn't going to put on a badge and all that stuff. And then the district attorney offered me a job, and I took it. So I'm kind of doing the same thing. It's just
glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
See, if my pants are on, my gun's on. Like the only time I don't have my gun is on me right now.
Yeah.
The only time I don't have it on me is at work, and it's in my truck. And if I could carry it at work, I would, just because I'm an American. Woohoo.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not. I mean, I'd throw it at somebody before I shot them.
American.
I'm American. America. Well, man, we're going to dive into who is BIRL and all that good stuff. But before I do, we talked downstairs about his gray locks he's got growing.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, so
it's something I'll never have.
Yeah, for 25 years, I've known BIRL to be high and tight and always have less hair than I have. And now at 70, right, BIRL? You're 70, yeah.
Getting close.
And I'm 25, and you have way more hair on your head than I do. So, but I like it.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Kim's not a fan?
No.
Yeah.
Definitely
She don't like the Fabio look?
She don't like anything. And when I don't have a hat on, I keep it slicked back, or I try to pull it back in a little
bun.
They have little names for man ponytails, but and she doesn't like. It's not her. I mean, she's not all about that, and I probably cut it sometime. I just what she don't understand is the more she tells me to cut it,
the more you want to keep it.
Yeah.
Right. That's like me. So I'll take my beard and I'll tie it up.
Well, that's how it started.
I'll tighten a little knot, especially when I'm eating or I'm cutting grass or riding down the road, because it just blows everywhere. And Candace hates it. And it's not that I like it. I don't really care about how it looks, but it's functional. Like, it's not getting in my mouth, but I will wear it in that knot anytime we go anywhere, just because I know she doesn't like it,
Well, that's actually what started all this, because when I retired from the sheriff's office, I actually did cut my hair once. And I was letting this grow, and I told my wife, I had a real good friend, ATF agent, and he had a goatee like down to here. He fit in real well in everything he did, because you'd never know he was a police.
Right.
But he would braid it, and I told her, just joking, well, I'm just trying to let it grow so I can catch up with him and braid. And that's when all that started, and she started. So I said, okay, I'll cut it off. And then I said, but the hair's growing.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Like my beard, like I don't know if I'll ever cut my beard. Like I think about it all the time. It's like, God, this thing is just like, it's always in my mouth. Like it doesn't matter what I'm doing, eating, riding down the road, cutting grass. Like I say, it's always in my mouth. The most recent thing was this summer. I cut grass with a buddy of mine every other Friday, and people definitely don't clean their yards whenever you come cut them, and dogs like to get out there and poo in it and stuff. And had a guy working on the air conditioners, and we were actually cutting my neighbor's house, so I rode over here real quick, and I'm standing there talking to him, and I just run my hands through my beard, and I just caught dog crap smell, and it's like, what is that smell? And I look down, and there's dog crap on my hands, and Ben looked at me. He said, "Is that poo?" And I said, "Yeah, that's dog crap in my freaking beard." So I'm just glad that I found it that way and not it blowing in my face right down the road. You know what I mean? So yeah, fun stuff, but it's still not enough to make me cut it. So all right, I'm sure that made everything real good and shaky there whenever I adjusted that microphone. All right, well, let's get into BIRL, man. So start from wherever you want to start from. Retired law enforcement. How many kids?
Yeah.
You got 2 kids?
Yeah, I got 2 kids and
A bunch of foster kids over the years?
Had a bunch, 40. Kim and I argue about the exact number. 40 plus.
Yeah.
Still have 3, 4 that come around all the time, are regular. So it's, and they're family. I don't even look at them as, quote unquote foster kids. They're just, and my kids look at them the same way. They're part of the family. Yeah. So yeah, we did that. It's funny. The sheriff's office always called me Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then only my friends and stuff call me BIRL. And so what would be real funny about that is nobody in the sheriff's office knew me as BIRL. And they would pull people over like from Bayview or from Walker County, and they'd go, "Hey, you know BIRL?"
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "No." But then they caught on who it was. And they knew what was funny is one deputy even told me, he said, "I know that everybody pull over that calls you BIRL is either just an old friend or a thug, and I need to search the car." And I was like, okay, that's fair enough, man.
It's funny you say that, because I've met officers from Jefferson County being out eating or whatever, because I work in Jefferson County, and I'd be like, "Hey, man, you know BIRL Watkins?" And they're like, "Lloyd." Yeah, I know him. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know how many years it was that I knew you before I knew your first name was Lloyd.
Yeah.
Or your name is Lloyd. I don't even know how you got BIRL. I don't even know.
That's my middle name.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a junior. Yeah.
Okay.
I was, my dad gave me that name, and I'm still in therapy. I mean, Lloyd's bad enough in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So most people call me Dubs because my name's LLOYD. Yeah. They call me Dubs, or I have one friend that still works and still around in law enforcement. He calls me Lloyd.
Lloyd, yeah.
Which I actually liked.
Yeah.
If I was to be honest, like I don't get mad when he calls me Lloyd. I think it's kind of funny.
My mother-in-law dated a guy named Lloyd for years, and we called him Lloyd.
Did you?
Yeah. I think it's funny. It's my name's Wesley, and I gave that to Keegan. And in true redneck fashion, I should have given it to Cullen as well. You know what I mean? Just kept them all Wesley, But Cullen's first name is Elijah, and then Keegan's is Wesley. So Wesley, Keegan, Elijah, Cullen. And they hate it because at school it's always Wesley or Elijah. It's never Keegan or Cullen. And they're like, "Oh, why you did that?" And I'm like, "Well, first off, Keegan, I got cursed with Wesley. You're just lucky you didn't get the Robert that goes with it and been a Wesley Bob, because I thought really hard about it. And if I'd liked my dad, I would have given you that name. But I hated him, so you just get..."
Well, the thing about it is that they could call you Wes, and that's what I call you, and that's cool. What are they gonna call me? And you're talking about the name in the childhood. Well, I had a terrible childhood.
Sure.
Because BIRL.
Yeah.
So I got called Burrow, Jack. Well, I got called Donkey.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff, and it caused me a lot of grief, a lot of fights. probably made me a little tougher, I guess,
Sure.
because I was, I have to throw knucks. Somebody making fun of my name.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it wasn't fun. I was wondering how, why did I get this name? And then to try to tell people how to say it.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at people that can't. And then the way it was spelled, that's a whole different ball game, because it wasn't spelled like BIRL Lives or some of the Milton BIRL or no, my parents, they were true Walker County and they didn't really.
It's just BIRL.
That's it, man.
Yeah. I was making sure I spelled it right.
That's
That's how I've
exactly-
always.
that's
That's how it is in my phone.
Yes,
so,
that's exactly
and,
how they
And I don't
spell
know
it.
if that's a testament to me knowing that or a testament to me just being Walker County and thinking that's how it's spelled. You know?
Sound it out.
Yeah. So funny story. So me and a guy named Adam that I work with, there's a place called Jay's Wings over in Fultondale, and I would slap both of y'all for a plate of these fried green tomatoes. Like, they are amazing. Golly, they're so good. So we go by there, we're riding together one day, and Adam pulls up at the no, I'm sorry, calls him on the phone is what he does, and places an order, and the guy's like, okay, what's your name? And he said, Adam. And the guy, you heard him sound it out. Adam? Like, and then he's questioning, and he's like, hey man, how do you spell that? Is it ATOM? And me and Adam, like, he's muting the phone. We are dying, you know what I mean? And he's like, no, man, finally got it out, ADAM. Well, we get there, and it's this 80 if he's a day-year-old black man. And he's like, man, I'm sorry, I didn't go through school, and I can't spell too well. I'm sorry I butchered your name, blah, blah. Man, we were cracking up. And I'm over there just like, and I said, I'm not going to lie to you, man. You had us rolling. He said, I had all them rolling.
I bet he did, too.
Adam. Is that ATOM? No, bro. No, it's ADAM. But anyway, that's good stuff, man.
It is good stuff. Well,
it keeps you.
Funny story
keeps you
about
humble.
that is when I go now to a fast food place, I never give my name.
Yeah.
I use your name. If I'm with you and they'll go, what's the name for the order? I'll say Wes
Yeah.
or Chris. And because when I say BIRL, the look
Yeah.
on the face, and then Watkins is like, this long, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, so I just make up a name. If there's not with anybody, I'm John.
Well, 100% this generation, like, that's like handing them a 50-cent piece or a $2 bill. They don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to like bag on this younger generation, but I handed a girl a 50-cent piece one time. She said, what is this? And I said, it's 50 cents. She said, huh? I said, 50 cents. And the girl standing there, she was like, yeah, it's a 50-cent piece. Like, just do the math off 50 cents and give him his change back, I was like, just give me the 50-cent piece back. I got 2 quarters. Here you go.
Yeah, make it simple, simplify.
And then did the same thing with a $2 bill at I think it was a McDonald's. A girl, I seen her look at it, and she looked back at me, and she looked at her manager and she was like, yeah, it's a $2 bill. You're good. It's like, I've never seen one of these. But
Give me counterfeit.
Yeah. So, well, all right, man. Well, just take us down your journey, like wherever you want to start.
Well, I mean, I was just typical. I mean, I was real poor coming up, so that didn't help either, by the way. The whole name thing, and then, being dirt poor was not conducive to being very popular. And
Sure.
It wasn't until I got a little older and people figured out that I was athletic. That was my, my saving thing is when a coach looked at me and said, I'll never forget it because it was an older black man in Bay Minette, Alabama. I don't know if you know where Bay Minette is, but I had went down there.
Oh, Bay Minette.
Bay Minette. Yeah, it was I was dressed out for PE. And he said, what are you doing here? And it scared me because this man was huge. He's like 6'5", 300 pounds. And I was like, And he goes, I mean, what are you doing here? Why are you here? You need to be over with athletes. And he said athlete. And first time I'd heard athlete, and I was like, okay. And then he said, you need to go see the coach. And I was like, the who?
The what?
The coach. And it turned out to be one of the sweetest men in the world, by the way.
Just got those Southern accent. Yeah, no, just got those Southern accent.
Yeah, that was
South Alabama accent.
That's exactly right. And he actually he pulled me aside and he said, look at you, you're athletic. Get over here with these guys, start playing ball, start working out. You'll thank me for it. And that was kind of the beginning. I mean, because before that I was just kind of a misfit, I guess you might say, just going along to get along, you know what I mean? And that was kind of the beginning where I kind of started busting out of, being somebody in school rather than some poor white trash kid named BIRL, you know? And, so that was kind of, how it went for me. And, athletics kind of opened a new door for me, and I got a little popular, and then my life wasn't so bad. Even still, we still weren't making a ton of money. When I was born, my dad, a lot of people know this, a lot of people don't, but my dad had been called to preach, right? And he didn't want to preach. He was making too much money. I know y'all think, because I just told you I was poor, but
Right.
he was making too much money farming. He had a contract with Ziegler. He had pigs. We had pigs when I was a little bitty fella. And Dad got real sick. Like, they thought he was going to die. They shot him up full of morphine and said, good luck. And of course, he didn't die. And so he come out and he decided that God, he was going to serve God, and he started preaching. Sounds great until you actually know what a preacher doesn't make.
Sure.
And
Been there, done that.
yeah. And so we went from not having a lot, don't get me wrong, we were still farmers, but I mean, like, if I needed something, but we went from that to just barely. Oh, and I guess the reason is he couldn't really hold down a job. His body was just gone. He went from, when he left the Marine Corps, my dad was 6'2", 6'1 and a half, 6'2", 230 pounds, just big, muscular guy. And when he went through everything he went through, which was created by the Marine Corps, by the way, they cut out 2/3 of his of his intestines. And he went from 230 something to 98 pounds within 6 months, and they thought he was going to die, but he didn't. God healed him. But then here we go down this road, and I'll never forget, because I was shell shocked. We moved to a small church in North Alabama in the parsonage, which, by the way, people think I'm lying when I say this, but you could look through the floor in my room and see the dirt underneath but it was right outside a place called the Projects. And I was 4 years old or 5 years old and had been on a farm and had never really been in conflict other than with my siblings. And now I'm living in a place, where conflict, and it doesn't matter. Poverty doesn't care, right? It doesn't care about your color. It doesn't care about, and all the project kids, I say that with a quotation because I guess I was a project kid, but all the project kids were a little tough. And if you weren't tough, you were a victim.
Right.
So, and that was how my life kind of started off. And I went through all that and didn't even, it wasn't until we'd done left that situation and moved to South Alabama before I started realizing, hey, I'm a little quick, I'm a little strong, I can do some things. And that's how that began. But
So in high school, you played sports?
I did up until I blew my knee. It's the same, story that everybody else. We did move a lot because of you understand this, ministry. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to go to Minor High School my 10th grade year. And I went to enrolled at Minor. And as soon as I enrolled, the coaches approached me. That's how it works. Y'all know that. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to. I played a long time. I'm going to take it easy. And I took a year off, I thought, and it just started eating at me. So I ended up down in a local park picking up a tackle football game. And believe it or not, that's where I got my knee destroyed the first time. Was in not even a real football game. It was vicious now, but
yeah. I mean, it was real football.
Yeah, it was. It was rough, and that was the beginning. And I had an old military doctor, and I know y'all probably had these kind of doctors. He come in and told my mom, basically I was going to be he exaggerated. He didn't want to play. He didn't want me playing football anymore. So he told my mom I wouldn't be able to walk again, and which was absolutely not true. But it was enough for my mom to say, you're not doing that. So that's actually when I diverted and started doing other things that I didn't really need to be doing. And that's actually when I started doing music full time, because my whole family, you grew up in my family, you had to play music. It wasn't, there was no question. If you didn't play music, then something was wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's when I started actually diving off into the musical stuff real heavy and everything that come along with that. So
at what point did, let's say, let me get you to do something real quick. slide. There you go.
Like that. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. At what point did you realize that, hey, I think I'm going to go into law enforcement? Were you in the military?
No. So that's another funny story. I was going to Dilworth Church of God, and I had took the test, and the Air Force had offered me a $30,000 signing bonus back then, which was huge. Because apparently I have a propensity to speak foreign languages according to the test, I still speak a little Spanish.
I can't even say that word.
Well, I still speak a little Spanish. I still speak a little Spanish and a little German. Not very good. But when I was in high school, I did
You could
okay.
understand it.
Yeah, I did okay. Yeah. And so I was, the Sunday before I was to go to Montgomery and start the official, go through all the, I was in the gym at Dilworth Church of God, and I did a layup. And when I landed,
Them knees, boy.
they said it looked like the doctor said it looked like something that exploded inside my leg. The ACL just went exploded into fringes, like he said it looked like a mop had exploded.
Oh, golly.
Well, yeah, so that ended that, you know.
Yeah.
And so I had but just so to be honest with you, I had no inclination to do law enforcement. If you want me to be brutally honest, I was not a fan of the police.
Yeah.
Well, because of how I grew up.
Sure.
Because when you're poor and stuff, the only time you really see the police is
it's
when
trouble.
Yeah.
Trouble. Something's happened. They're either looking for you or something bad is going on.
I did a lot of crap. I mean,
Sure.
I don't mind just telling. I was a preacher's kid.
Sure.
I had a reputation to uphold.
Yeah. PKs are always the
true.
worst.
That's true.
100%.
Well, and I tell everybody about that. When I was like 9, I was a good kid. I really think I was, but I kept getting accused of doing everything that went wrong at any church function, and of course, the discipline came along with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Because there was old school Pentecostal people.
Yeah, I get it.
And so about 10 years old, I'm like, man, if I'm going to take the beating, not really, they didn't beat me, but
but I get what you're saying.
then I'm going to have the fun.
Well, that makes me wonder. Like,
Getting some water.
I remember I've told this story on here before, but Keegan was probably 5, and I was preaching one night, and I told him, I said, Keenis wasn't there, and I said, you better not act up. If you act up, I'm gonna get you when we get home. Well, somewhere along, I don't know, about halfway through the sermon, I look, and he's just climbing the walls in the back of that church. And the bad thing is the pastor aunt, good friend of mine, you know what I mean? So I'm embarrassed, number one, he's a young pastor, and he's trying to grow his church, and here I am preaching, and my kid's just going nuts in the back, Well, Keegan locks eyes with me, and he just kind of melts. Well, would not wake up. Like, he's out at that point. He's out the whole service. And load him in the car, put him in the car seat, and he just limp dead. Get him home, he's limp, put him in the bed. Well, next morning, I'm sitting there watching TV, and he comes bebopping by, and he stops. He says, you forgot to whip me last night. I said, oh, I didn't forget. Come on. You about to get it. And I tore him up pretty good. He's 20. I ain't never had to. Well, I think I did whip him one other time. I think he hit Andrew in the junk at church one time. And, that was not good. But it's pastor's son. And, but anyway, I think I whipped him one other time besides that. But, there's something about don't act up in church. You know what I mean? But I do know those old school.
Yeah.
Pentecostal preacher, even just old school church people in general, like, you don't act up in church.
No,
there's
no
repercussions for it.
I was afraid to breathe sometimes, but the thing is, I do think some of that was thrust. I make fun of, I'm being funny, but I do think it was thrust on me and I will never forget. I don't know how deep that you were, but my dad, if there was a Church of God function anywhere in America, he was there.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like, right? And I remember one time we were in like Kansas City, Missouri or something at a General Assembly or something, and I'm not in, who went to the service, right? I'm out running around looking for girls or getting into whatever I'm getting into. And I will never forget hearing over the loudspeaker, Brother Watkins, please go find your son. And I knew.
You knew, right?
I was dead.
It's like, I better just wait till service is over and have my fun, because when he finds me, I'm in trouble.
I'm done. Yeah. And the thing about Dad was he explained it to me, didn't stop anything.
Right.
But he explained it to me, and I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
You represent me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to represent you. I'm a kid. But now as an adult, I 100% get that I was bringing stuff on him that, but
making it harder on him.
Yeah. But it didn't damage me. It did make me not like church for a long time. I refused, to, because, when you're in the ministry or you kind of see the bad side of everything.
Well, and that's the thing, man, that people don't understand is number one, I mean, back to the whole preachers making a ton of money. There's a handful of preachers that make a ton of money.
Or my opinion. Yeah.
There's a handful that take advantage and make a ton. Most of them do it out of the goodness of their heart. Yeah. They're working a full-time job. They're doing what they can do for the Lord, trying to make ends meet. The other side of it is people forget that those people are human beings.
Yes.
They're men. Mm-hmm. They're women. They're humans just like you are, and they forget that their children are children too.
Yeah.
And little Billy, the pastor's son, may be a holy terror, but little Susie is over there kicking him and poking him, making him be a holy terror, and you're wanting little Billy to get in trouble and not taking care of little Susie. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's always a stigma with that. And then of course, the not necessarily that you're a bad kid, but you're making me look bad type thing too. Yeah. And the grief he's catching on the flip side of that.
That's right.
Why can't you, if you can't, and the Bible says it, control you got to control your house.
Yes.
If you can't control your house, you can't control the Lord's house. But people take that too far. They're not looking at what that means. It's not a kid being a kid, and it does get out of hand, and I'm sure some frustrations were probably taken out that maybe were warranted or wasn't.
Sure,
but
I earned them. Listen, a lot of stuff that I take full responsibility. I earned most of the things that I got, and just to set the record straight, my dad was a really good man, and I didn't know that, by the way, until I was in my 30s.
Yeah,
and that sounds funny. I'd heard my whole life, your dad's such a good man. And I'm like, you never been in the bedroom with him.
You don't live with him. You don't live with him.
When he comes in with that belt, man.
When he can undo that belt and have it off and hit me all in one motion, you don't know.
Yeah, but he was a really good man. And I didn't realize that until later on in life. I mean, fully. I realized it before 30, of course, but I mean, fully come to appreciate it. And of course, that made me feel like, because some of the stuff I did intentional. I mean, just being rebellious and whatever. But
had he not been a good man though, he wouldn't have disciplined you.
No.
And don't get me wrong, people. Before everybody freaks out, we're not talking about beating and abuse.
No,
we're talking about discipline, and there's a difference.
It wasn't always a whipping, by the way. Yeah. And everybody, discipline had a lot to do with what like I wasn't allowed to lay around the house. My parents could not have lived today with, and I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking, but iPads and stuff, they're wonderful, right? But my parents could not. They would have lost it because they couldn't understand why I would sit all day long, in one position.
Sure.
And well, actually, they wouldn't have allowed it, Yeah. So that's just kind of how they were.
Well, I think in a lot of ways we probably should get back to that.
I think there needs to be. I really do. I really do.
And I'm one that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, so I texted you yesterday and talked to Chris. We've been having internet problems here with Spectrum or whatever, and I mean, you'd have thought the world was coming to an end. Like, Dad, wait, what's wrong with the internet? Look, first off, take that bass out your voice. It ain't got nothing to do with me. It ain't nothing I did. I can't help it. But I do let my kids probably have too much screen time, but the flip side of that, me and Candace do it too. You know what I mean? We watch our shows and scroll through our phones. I mean, I'm using technology right now to do this. I mean, hopefully this is
a good
being
thing.
Productive, but at the same time, I do get, hey, go throw the ball, go shoot some hoops. Take the dog outside, go do something besides sit there shooting your friends on a game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's better things to do. I understand that. So, how long you been married?
It'll be 35 years.
You can let me know the real number and I'll edit this out.
Yeah, you better make sure you get it
right. Before Kim listens, I can edit this out if you can't. I couldn't tell you how long
I got married in October 7th, 1989.
There you go. Somebody can do the math on that.
Yeah. Hey, at least you had the date right. So
that's me. I can't remember.
It only took me 30 years to get the date right.
Well, I know I either got married November 10th or November 11th of 2001. the date we were supposed to get married was November 17th, and we changed that because of the Alabama-Auburn game, and we was afraid nobody would show up. And in hindsight, we should have just did a big Iron Bowl thing. But anyway, pretty sure it's the 10th, but it might be the 11th. So I get it. I'm in the same boat. I can't remember what day.
What year?
2001. So I've been married 22 years.
You're going to do the math.
No, I'm going
No,
to
we've
do
been married 23 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to look up the date. 2001 Iron Bowl. Oh, well, you already knew when that was, though,
17th,
right? So,
yeah, November
never mind,
17th.
so that doesn't help me.
Then
7
forget
days back
that, but
from
then
that.
can't remember the wedding, but you don't forget that Iron Bowl.
I can't remember
7
mine.
days back will be the 10th, I guess.
Funny thing was, I could have cared less about football then.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
give two craps about it then. Somewhere along the way, we became Alabama fans. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. But it can be that too. Just sometimes I sit around and think about, man, what am I doing?
Yeah,
you know.
We'll sit here and
I was looking at your pictures, and Britton buys me Alabama memorabilia, all that. So I've got some really nice pictures, and I don't really have a place or a room to put them up in. And,
so for years, these were at our old house. These were outside. Freaking Daniel Moore pictures Kenneth got me for my 30th birthday. Had them outside on my deck, and the sun faded a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, I've got that one, except it's a bigger.
Yeah, the catch.
Yeah. And I was trying to see if I had any.
Yeah, some of these are autographs I found at the flea market, and I mean nobody can see them that's on here, but we can. Some of them are. I think I got a Julio Jones and Javier Arenas. Some of those.
That's
guys.
Julio right there.
But whenever I was fixing this room to do a podcast, and I was like, well, I don't really know how I'm gonna decorate them. So I got these pictures. I should use them.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's a good idea.
nobody sees them, but I do, so I enjoy it. But yeah, Roll Tide.
Yeah.
Coach Saban, not DeBoer. I mean, I like DeBoer. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll find out if I like him.
Yeah. It's time.
We'll know Saturday.
Yeah. We'll see how he does against
Yeah,
Georgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if this will air before then. So yeah, we're gonna put this up Thursday. So yeah, Alabama for the win. Roll Tide. We're gonna beat them by 7.
Nice.
You think so?
I'll take that.
I
think
was
we'll beat
going
'em by
to say a field goal.
Yeah, at least 7. Well,
right.
minimum 7. That's
All
what
right.
I'm thinking. Minimum
Okay.
7. Field goal to 7 points. We beat them. Hail Mary drive. I'm gonna say Milrow to Hollywood, the new kid, 17 years old. Man, he's a phenom, dude. That kid don't even realize what he's about to do. And let's put it this way. Who knows? I mean, who knows what the kid will do? But if he goes off against Georgia, and he can have some catches, he's sealed.
Yeah.
If he wins SEC championship, they win SEC championship, he does something. He's really sealed the deal. But if they win it all, man, that kid's gonna ride his own ticket.
Oh yeah.
All he's got to do is have a catch every game. Just
Yeah.
one catch every game. That's for a big run. I mean, he's what we've needed.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, if you're an Alabama fan, Alabama's been lacking receivers for the past 2 to 3 years. And
Yep.
Milrow, love him or hate him, like I love him. I think Milrow's a phenom. I think he's in his head too much.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he'll never play quarterback in the NFL. He should just go ahead and be a running back, in my opinion. But man, he can throw a ball. I mean, like, how far can you throw the ball, Milrow? I don't know. How long's the stadium?
Right.
You know
Just
what I'm saying?
Right
Like,
back rocket.
yeah.
I just think you don't process fast enough.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
it right there.
Yeah.
I think he can't, in my opinion. But there again, armchair quarterback. Here,
Yeah,
you know what I
same.
I'm not out there, and I don't have
You're not saying what he's
I
saying.
don't have 4 to 6 300-pound guys running at me either, and having to do all my checks. But
It's easy to second guess him. When
Yeah,
But now he can run.
no, man, dude, man, it's ridiculous. But I will say with what's his name, Williams?
Yeah, it's Williams, Hollywood.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't think of his
Ryan
first name, but
Williams.
Ryan Williams. Yeah, with him coming on though, it's made a difference, and that's
Yeah.
what, to me, that's what Milrose needed. He's needed somebody that he could just connect with. I think he was getting there with Bond last year.
Yeah.
And Isaiah Bond pulling that big catch down in the Iron Bowl, but I think he's just needed somebody he knows I can go to this kid. Now, hopefully nobody catches on and starts double covering him and
Yeah.
things like that. You know what I mean? But
Well, hopefully they won't listen to this podcast and they'll never.
Yeah, well,
they'll
know.
they'll know all the Alabama
yeah,
secrets. if they do,
I mean,
so.
I know Kirby Smart is just chomping at the bits
Yeah,
waiting on this
that's
to come
right,
out.
he's waiting
So
on it.
anyway.
Well, that's the thing. Georgia's gonna be way more prepared. I feel like for
Yeah.
Saturday than they
Yeah,
were
I mean-
against Kentucky.
I think they underestimated Kentucky. I think Kentucky's a solid team, and they've been coming on the last few years. But I think Georgia just went in there looking at Alabama,
Yep.
and thinking we're going to come in here and just kind of blow
also,
this one out.
you don't want to get hurt either.
Right. And I don't know. I didn't watch that game, so I don't know how many starters were in the game versus how many weren't. I mean, just like South Florida, people would blame Alabama, but you ain't got all your starters in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the game that you don't want all your starters in. I mean, I know Fromby or whatever his name had all those penalties, and it drives me crazy to have those penalties. And you say what you want. He's a young kid. I'm not trying to bash him. He's a young kid. First collegiate game. A lot of pressure. I get it. But at the same time, dude, you're a 4 or 5 star athlete.
Yeah.
That's
true.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Talking about number 75?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the
Wilkin,
same time, what was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, like not bashing the kid, because from what I understand, he's a great kid and he's a great athlete.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of pressure. And then you do it once, oh crap! You do it twice, you're really getting in your head, and then that third time, and the flip side of that is if you go back and rewatch the game, which I did, USF's holding just as much as Alabama is. They're just not getting called.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just, for whatever reason, in my opinion, he got on that referee's radar, and that referee started watching him every play, and he's doing what everybody else. Matter of fact, he's probably doing what he's told to do in practice.
Yeah.
But he'll be great. He'll be a good one for sure. So yeah, Roll Tide. If you're an Auburn fan, keep listening. But to you, Tennessee's even worse.
Does Brian Good listen to this?
I was reading his post where the greatest team in the world took the field yesterday and got beat. I don't remember who they played, but they got beat. They did get beat, right?
Who, Auburn?
Yeah.
They played Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah, whooped by Arkansas. Which, hey, Arkansas, I think Arkansas will make playoffs this year.
Well, they got a good quarterback if they can get him. He's very mobile.
Yeah. I think they could at least contend for it.
I think Auburn just needs a new head coach.
Man, here's the deal with Auburn, in my opinion. Auburn needs to let the coach be the coach.
Yeah, that's been problems for years.
For years. If Alabama had told Nick Saban, we're going to control everything you do, Nick Saban wouldn't have done what he done in Alabama. He wouldn't, and that's any school. Why hire him? If your athletic director is going to keep his nose in everything, what's the use in just go down the field and coach?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's Auburn's problem. There is no reason Auburn should not compete every single year. No reason. And if they don't start getting something up, they better start pumping the money in there, because they won't have those kids anymore because of NIL. Yeah. NIL is going to snatch them anyway. We're already seeing that. But it's really going to take away from Auburn's program if they don't
win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can't win with Hugh Freeze, I mean, come on, he's questionable individual, but he's a heck of a football coach. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what he does in his personal life. I mean, that's on him to get caught and go to jail. Yeah. But as far as on the football field, like he's a reputable coach, and so I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's kind of funny to see how all that plays out. But I mean, it's football. Yeah. We may have the same thing with DeBoer. We'll see. I don't think so. I think he's a good coach.
Me too. I think he's going to be all right.
He's just going to take some time.
You got to replace Nick Saban. That's got to be incredible.
Man, who would you? I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who?
I wouldn't want to do it personally.
No.
Who would you?
I want somebody else first, and then me come in.
Yes, 100%. I'd want to be the guy after Coach Saban. But I mean, any way you looked, I mean, I don't care for Lane Kiffin personally, but I think he's a heck of a coach. I could have lived with him there. I could have lived with Kirby, but they're not. You might have pulled Lane from Ole Miss, but he's also turning Ole Miss around. So Lane's a little bit arrogant enough to say, "Well, I'm going to stay here and do it," which I've heard talks.
I heard he wanted to come, but it was on Alabama's end.
Yeah,
because he made so many people mad
here. Yeah. And Lane's his own worst enemy.
Yeah, he is. Always has been.
Yeah, if you get left on the tarmac. You know what I mean? But at the same time, that's what makes me love him.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's a good coach.
I don't know about head coach. He's a heck of offensive coordinator.
I think he's one of the best ones we had. Him and Sark both.
Yeah. And that's why you see Texas taking a turn, and Ole Miss too, and Georgia's doing what they're doing.
They didn't try to get Dabo.
Well, here's the thing about Dabo. Dabo's a great coach. Don't get me wrong, but he's not championship quality. I mean, he's just not. He had a couple years at Clemson, and not knocking Dabo. I mean, he come in, he can win, he can compete, but and there again for Coach DeBoer, you better win. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just talking win. You better have some championships. You know what I mean? You can't just, we won the Iron Bowl and we made it to the playoffs and we're SEC champs. Okay, you did that this year. Next year,
Yeah.
You
next year
better at least
have
be
it, yeah.
playing. You know,
Yeah.
like you better, if you lose this year, you had better be in number 1 or number 2 and lost. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to get a second or third chance. I don't think, but maybe they show him some grace. I mean, he needs some time too.
Yeah.
He's young.
Yeah.
You know, he's young and he's done a lot in his career. And from what I understand from people I know down there and stuff, like the players love him. You know, so that's a lot of it too. You know, players being behind him.
Yeah.
You know, that means a lot. So, well, there you go. That's your sports talk from people from Wes who knows nothing about sports. You know, I played football for like 6 weeks. You know, so but anyway, back to BIRL, and not Bama. So you've been married for 30 some years.
Yeah.
Right? 2 kids of your own, multiple foster kids, and police officer.
Yeah, so the whole police
Sheriff's
officer
deputy.
Yeah, I never had a. At first, I wasn't interested in it at all, And the funny thing is I was married. I wasn't living the way that I should be living, and my old friend of mine that I used to do some really not good things. I don't want to say too much because he actually knows the daughter. That I've done some not so good things with, pulls up in my yard one day. This is a true story, in a police car. And I'm like, no, man, I don't know what you're doing. Don't know where you stole it. Don't know where you stole that uniform, but you can turn around and you can just take that out of my yard. And that was the beginning. He just kept on about, you'd be a good cop because you think like a thug. That's literally what he said. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this. So then he invited me for a ride along, and that's what normally gets people. And I get it. Because the first night I rode along with him, I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of fun and it's interesting. And he did some really good things in front of me. And then I got saved. Like everybody's like assumed because my dad was a preacher that my whole life that I've been a Christian. I was 24, 25 years old when I got saved. So I got saved. And then my wife's talking to me, why don't you just go take the test? And I'm like, no. And then I get to hanging out with my buddy again, going another ride along. Next thing I know, I'm down at the personnel board filling out the application. Next thing I know, I'm in the Bowell Auditorium with about 1,500 other guys taking a very dumbed down test. Thank goodness, but made me look like a rock star. Wasn't very hard at all, just to be honest with you. And then in the process of time, I'm pinning a badge. I'll go through the whole 9 yards, and I will never forget the polygraph because I told my friend, I said, like, when we get to the polygraph part, that's when it's over. I'm going to write it out. But when we get to the polygraph, it's over. He goes, why? I said, because I'm not going to lie. I mean, I had only been saved a little while, but I knew that lying wasn't good.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm not going to lie, man. And we did things I'm pretty sure that they frown upon.
Sure.
And the funny thing about it was, as I go take the test, a lie detector test, and the lady asked me some questions. I'm not going to say them on air. Y'all can use your own imagination. Sure. Have you ever done blah, blah, blah? And I said, yes. And she actually stopped the thing and turned off the little thing and said, are you sure that's how you want to answer that question? And I said, had you rather me lie?
Yeah.
And she went, well, no.
If I lie, it's going to tell you.
Right. And she's like, well, no. So we get back in and I answer a couple other questions that she gave me are you, but when it was over with, she said, this is how I knew it was God. She said, I have no idea why I'm doing this. I'm going to recommend they hire you. I don't know why. And I was like, oh. And it was a whirlwind from that point. And went to work for the sheriff's office. And I was very fortunate to work around a lot of really, really good guys and a lot of really, law enforcement gets a bad or has a bad reputation right now. Some of it's deserved and some of it's earned, but a lot of it's not. And I worked around a lot of guys that I'm telling you were just that were really good people. And I was a brand new Christian. I don't know if you know what it's like to work in the jail. Like your first back in the day, you had to do your time in the county jail before you got to go out on patrol, right?
Nice.
Yeah, 4 years, 9 months, and 3 days. That's how long I was
So
in
that's doing your time before you can go out on patrol.
Yeah, yes. And it's not a very pleasant place.
Yeah.
And, I had a guy I went to church with, he goes, man, you get to share the love of Jesus with everybody. And I'm thinking, have you ever been in county jail? Because I'm dodging fists and other things that they throw at you.
Yeah.
And I'm not really having a chance to talk to them about the love of Jesus. And it was really rough on me. I'm going to be honest with you. I told my wife, like after the second week, I said, honey, I think I'm in the wrong job. I think I need to quit. She didn't know what was going on, and I wasn't about to tell my wife what I was experiencing at that place. And she's like, just hang in there. And so, and I did, but God knew what he was doing, and it worked out. And I had a long career, and loved every minute of the sheriff's office with the exception of the past, 6 years or 8 years. And that's all because of politics,
Sure.
But I loved the sheriff's office, and I was able to do a lot of things. So I got to see some of it not so good, some of it I wish I hadn't saw, but I did. And it's opened the door for things for me to do today,
Yeah. So circling back for just a second, I've got I've got two friends right now who are currently law enforcement officers. Matter of fact, their dad is retired. Good friend of mine, brother. He is actually retired and now retired from Birmingham. Now works for a city here locally, and then his brother is a Birmingham officer. And then I have another friend who is no longer an officer. I say a friend. I consider him a friend. We're more acquaintances. We don't hang out, but we see each other. We speak. Went to be a Birmingham officer in his mid-30s. I mean, he's jacked up. And you were talking about the polygraph, and he said that he was answering questions, and it got to, have you ever been affiliated with criminal organizations? He's MC guy. He's a motorcycle club. And he's like, well, can I talk to you about this? Like, hey, what do you mean? Like I've never participated, but I was in the club, and I know things they did. You know what I mean? And so that was a big. He almost didn't get hired because of it. You know what I mean? Because of his affiliation. And that had been 15 years prior. You know what I mean? He was 18, 20 years old in this motorcycle club, and rode with him for a few years, and it disbanded. And for whatever reason, he wanted a career change and decided he wanted to be an officer, and it almost prevented him from getting hired. So I don't think people understand that it's not. I'm sure it's not like Police Academy, like the TV show or the movie. You know what I mean? But there are a lot of things that I'm sure that we don't realize that y'all have to go through in order to be hired. It's not just showing up saying, "Hey, I want to be a cop."
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, back in the day, an old officer that helped train me that I really miss. He's been dead for a while now, but he was an extraordinary police officer. But he told me when he got hired, the credentials to get hired, you had to be 6 foot, wear a size 11 shoe, and be able to brawl.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, then you were qualified. And
now you can be 5 foot tall and as round as you are tall and be in Secret Service.
Yes. Well,
and almost get shot with the president.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, former president. Anyway, we won't go there.
Well, and back to that lack of training too. I mean, because when I watched that unfold, in front of my eyes, my brain's not computing because and this is going to may sound funny to you guys, but I could not get over the fact that a Secret Service agent could not reholster their weapon.
That's what I was fixing to say.
And they trained. We spent we call them block of instructions. I don't know if y'all are familiar. We spent a whole day, not just a block of instruction. We spent a whole day at the range where we covered that. And at the time, I thought, this is the dumbest thing. Why are we having to holster, unholster? Well, it makes a lot of sense because now if you're under stress and you holster and you pull a Barney Fife and you shoot your leg, or you can't find it and you're poking, as we saw on national television, it's just not good.
There again, back to Jalen Milroe. I'm not out on the field.
Yeah.
I'm not the one standing there having to look and say, am I about to get plugged here? Or is he about to get plugged? But that, and then the other thing I saw was one of them was, oh crap, I don't have my sunglasses on. Let me throw them on real quick.
Well,
Really?
there's an element of looking cool in the Secret Service.
Yes. And that's what I saw. I saw panic, and I saw I don't look the part. Like you know what I mean? Like more than safety. Not only that, but then you've got a man who's 6 foot. What is Trump? 6'4", 6'5"?
He's at least 6'3". I don't know if he's that, but he's tall.
So well, let's be conservative and say he's an average man, 6 foot tall.
Okay.
Don't you? In my opinion, if you're going to shield him, you should at least be able to shield his face with your body or your head.
Well, that was leadership. And that's the first thing I said, because I called her Barbie. I gave all of them names, but Barbie looked like she might have been 5'6", maybe, right? And she was leaving the whole upper part. And while everybody wanted to bash her, including me, because it was fun.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is she was put on that detail. Whomever.
Yeah, it wasn't her fault she was put there.
Yeah, she can't help that she's 5'6" or whatever. She should have never been in that position. But then again, you're hearing rumors now, stuff is coming out that like those weren't even real Secret Service. They were HSI. And, coming over to lend a hand. And I still don't know if you're federal law enforcement. I still think that you should be able to holster your weapon. And I don't want to get him. I don't. I'm a conservative individual. Everybody knows that. But I don't want to get in the weeds on that whole thing because, but to say it was embarrassing is to any law enforcement officer is beyond. I mean,
that's my point. It makes law enforcement has a bad rap right now anyway. Yeah. They just do. But then you add just a debacle. Mm-hmm. Like, and look, whether you like Trump or not, that's on you. I'm not here to discuss my political views and things like that. I mean, I know where I stand and I know who I'm going to vote for. And that's my opinion, but, just as it is yours, it's your right to vote for whatever. But whether it was Trump or whether it was Harris or whether it was Biden, they deserve to be protected by the best of the best. And just like a criminal committing a crime, getting arrested deserves to be treated with respect, and not be, brutalized for no reason.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're in handcuffs and you still want to act a fool, that's on you, man. Stop being stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's a different world now, though, too, the way everybody views things.
Yeah.
I before I retired from the sheriff's office, I kind of had become a fireman. What I mean is I put out fires, political fires, things going wrong. And I had a boss, lieutenant, who asked me to watch a body cam footage of an arrest. And it was not a put your hands behind your back and they complied arrest. Sure. It was, I'm not going to jail. And the whole crux of it was they were trying to look at the guys for excessive force, right? And I just brought this up because there was no excessive force. And I just asked the lieutenant, I was like, because both of us had been around for a long time. And I said, have you ever seen an arrest look pretty when a person didn't want it to be, not be arrested? And that it's like a light bulb almost came on, and because we were so caught up in the optics of it. But there are certain optics you can't change. They're going to look bad, and it doesn't matter what you do. So we're just going to have to deal with it. It's like you said, you don't want to brutalize anybody, but sometimes you have to, do what you have to do.
Let's step off in the weeds here, and you guys don't have to join in with what I'm about to say, but I have my opinion on it. Let's George Floyd.
Okay.
First off, it's tragic that the man passed. I mean, like, it's tragic. I hate it. I wished it hadn't have happened. I watched the video I was able to see. The video that I watched, I saw an officer with his knee up around the neck area, shoulder area, and an officer kind of mid-body and one at the feet, which, in my opinion, not being an officer, looks pretty standard.
Yeah.
I don't know about the knee on the neck so to speak. And I watch a lot of cops and things like that. Like I don't know why I like to watch people get arrested. I think it's funny. Not funny that they're getting arrested, but like, hey, you know what, stupid? Do what they tell you to do. Now, I do understand that we live in a day and a time where they very well may come in and say, hey, I'm seizing everything you own because I'm taking it. And we need to stand up, you know. But if I have committed a crime right now and the police are after me, I know I've committed that crime.
Yeah.
Just like speeding or whatever else, you know. Take Tyreek Hill that just got pulled over from the Miami Dolphins, you know what I mean? What I saw of him, hands the license out the window, rolls his window back up with tinted windows, and for officer safety, he's saying, hey, man, roll the windows down. Look, dude, just comply. Chances are when he saw who you were, he'd have said, hey, buddy, you need an escort.
Yeah.
So you get there safely. Yeah. But instead, you want to be a prick.
That's what happened.
And you know, I'm going to take a knee, and that's fine. That's your right to do if you want to do that. But my point being, back to George Floyd, is had he just been compliant, right now, whether the police are right or wrong, right now in today's times, that could change in the future, but right now in today's times, if an officer's approaching me to arrest me, and I know he's an officer or she's an officer, just be compliant. Chances are the worst case scenario is I'm going to go sit at the jail for a few hours. I'm going to get out, and it's going to be, I'm sorry, and I got a lawsuit, or it's going to be, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not worth your life when chances are you're going to bail out within 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know what George Floyd was into and what he had done. I know what I've read and what I've heard, and I know it's a controversial topic.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, had he just complied?
Yeah.
There again, I get it. Times were hot then. Hot for reasons that should have never been hot. Maybe it's a good thing because it did wake some police up, and the cowboy policemen have settled down a little bit, hopefully. But I don't think there's as many cowboy officers as there are good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my opinion is, had he just complied? What's your thought on that?
Well, that to me, that's the whole bottom line. I used to have to go teach classes and stuff, civilian classes, and I'd always tell them, if you get pulled over on a traffic stop and you didn't run that stop sign, and you know you didn't run that stop sign,
go to court.
But he says you run that stop sign, the officer or she. The best thing to do is not to fight it right there on the side of the road, right? Because that's never going to end up good.
Right.
There's no way. And I'm like you. There may come a time, and I think we're heading toward a time where
I do too.
Maybe compliance is not. But right now, if you even if you didn't do anything and they're acting reasonably, like because they don't know the situation, because I've come up on multiple situations where I didn't know who was good, who was bad,
Sure.
who was whatever, and in those situations, we just put everybody on the ground.
Sure.
And that's just for their safety as well as our safety.
Right.
And then we'll kind of figure it out. But when you decide not to comply, it does cause problems. I'm not going to say, because I'm a cop. Well, I'm not now. I'm retired, but I can say that now. I'm not saying, but I'm not going to say what I think about it, because my vision and my perspective is skewed because of doing the job for 30 years, right? Sure. And I know exactly probably what happened with him, because, we all go through similar situations. The only thing that I will say is the guy that had his knee across his neck, which, by the way, was taught in a lot of law enforcement academies, just to hold him down. Maybe if you want to hindsight 2020 the guy or whatever, hey, don't leave it on there for however long they recorded him leaving it, or cycle
and the human side of me, when I'm watching that and I'm hearing the man say, I can't breathe. Yeah. I can't breathe.
Yes. Then get off.
They're not, and they were doing nothing.
Yeah.
They're being, and to me, that was a prick move. Like, you're not going to help this man or render aid because you're mad at him. Yeah. That's the way I felt that they were acting in that. Maybe they weren't, but that's the way it felt. So I'm conflicted on both sides. It's like, maybe had Mr. Floyd just complied.
Yeah.
And just,
but they also may have thought he was lying to get out.
That's my point.
I'm sure they did think he was lying.
Because how many times but does that mean that you still don't render aid?
No. And that's so that's where, that's where you're, like you say, you're conflicted. And that's a good, that's a good place to be conflicted, because you can't always do things the way that you like, perfectly the way you want to, but there is an opportunity, and he had an opportunity. I think I forgot his name, the cop that was on his neck. He had an opportunity for none of that to happen. Now I understand if you don't listen to CNN or liberal, any media. I'm gonna say any media now because
it's all biased,
right? But if you take that apart, you just look at the facts, you'll find out that he did not die because of his knee being across the back of his neck. But still, the optics of that are awful. And like you said, it would have made everything a whole lot better if he would have, when he said, I can't breathe or whatever, at least get off and roll over. What's wrong, man? Let me set you up. Yeah. Let me set you up. But the whole problem was, and they couldn't get him to go in the car. He didn't want to go in the car. He's 6'6" or 7. Yeah. And, he's claiming he's claustrophobic and all this. And I think, like you brought up something that was very valid. Human emotion got involved. Yeah. Because they're human, just like me and you're human, right? And I can almost guarantee you were right about what you said. Yeah. Did he get mad? More than likely. And he's probably been dealing with George Floyd for so long. He was just like, man, I am sick of this man.
Yeah. And I get that, but and how do you draw that line as an officer? Because you're supposed to.
You have to. That's the key. That's the whole thing. I'm not dogging anybody, but there has to be a point. And I'm not like saying, I'm not sitting up here saying that I did and I do everything. I've done tons of things wrong, right? Sure. Hindsight's always 20/20. And then you go back and watch your own body camera. You want to talk about something that'll open your eyes up. Go back and watch your own body cam, footage, and you'll be like, I cannot believe that I did that. Whether it's an officer safety issue or whatever. And it goes back to the old saying, and everybody gets mad when people say this, but it goes back to a lot of training and stuff. And you're right to be, in my opinion. This is an opinion, by the way, for everybody. It's just my opinion. Right. You have a right to be conflicted about that because.
Well, I lean towards, in that whole situation, this is going to get me blasted.